Welcome to your personalized deep dive. You're looking to get up to speed on the latest in AI, and today we're jumping right into the AI Daily News Digest for May 14th, 2025. We've gone through it to pull out the key stuff, everything from new ways to make video from images to the latest language models and how they're actually being used. So let's unpack this.
Yeah, let's do it. And right off the bat, generative AI is seeing some really striking progress, especially in video creation.
Right, it looks like there's a new frontrunner in that image-to-video race. Kling 2.0 seems to be getting a lot of attention.
That's the word, yeah. Reports suggest it's now, well, ahead of some big names like VO2 and Runway Gen 4.
And why is that? What's making it stand out?
Well, the key things seem to be prompt adherence, so it actually understands what you're asking it to create much better, and just the overall video quality, it looks better.
Ah, okay. So it's not just making things move, it's better at grasping the instructions.
Exactly. It suggests a real leap in getting AI to generate realistic and controllable video from just a still image, like building a visual story you can actually direct to some extent.
Interesting. Okay, let's switch gears a bit. Language models. There's something intriguing happening with the WizardLM team.
Yeah, they've apparently moved from MSR China over to Tencent.
And right after that, Tencent releases Hunyuan-Turbos. Seems connected.
The timing certainly makes you think, doesn't it? Now, Hunyuan-Turbos, it's a closed model, so we don't know the exact details, proprietary stuff. But its performance on the leaderboards, that's telling. It's shot up to become the top Chinese language model on LMArena.
Wow, top Chinese model. And where does it sit overall?
Currently number 8 overall, which is pretty impressive. Number 13 for style control specifically.
That's a huge jump from what? Number 21 back in February.
Yeah, a really significant climb.
Yeah.
And what's particularly interesting is where it's performing well, complex stuff like hard categories, coding, math.
So difficult tasks?
Right. And seeing that kind of improvement happening right after that team moved, well, it really highlights how important talent is. And maybe the research environment too, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Makes you wonder what specific factors really push things forward so quickly. Okay, speaking of impressive models, let's talk about Alibaba's Qwen 3 family. The analysis seems quite deep.
Oh, definitely. Lots to unpack there. The Qwen 3 235B A22B model, the reasoning variant, the one hit a score of 62 on the Artificial Analysis Intelligence Index.
62. And that means
That makes it currently the most intelligent open weights model out there. That's a big claim.
open weights. Okay. But the really fascinating part seems to be its structure, right? The parameters.
Exactly. It's got a massive 235 billion parameters total, but
Yeah.
it only actually uses about 22 billion active parameters for any given task.
Only 22 billion active. How does that compare to others?
Well, think about NVIDIA's Llama Nemotron Ultra, that's a dense model using all its 253 billion parameters, or DeepSeek R1, which activates 37 billion out of, well, a huge 671 billion total.
So Qwen 3 is much more selective in what it uses.
Precisely. And this points towards the power of these mixture of experts models, MOE. You hear that acronym a lot.
Right. MOE.
Yeah.
Using smaller experts inside the bigger model.
Yeah. And the analysis suggests models like the Qwen 330B A3B, which is smaller, can actually perform as well as, or maybe even better than, comparable dense models.
Really? Even with fewer active parameters?
Apparently so. It kind of challenges that simple idea that more active parameters automatically means better performance in MOE. It's more complex than that.
And there's this reasoning or thinking mode boost across the Qwen 3 models.
Yes, consistently. You see a noticeable performance jump when those modes are enabled, especially, it seems, in coding tasks. The 30B A3B model shows really big gains there.
Suggests those modes are really kicking in for the harder problems.
Seems like it, but there's a bit of a catch with the openness of these larger Qwen 3 models.
Ah, right, the licensing.
Yeah. The technical report mentions Apache 2.0, which sounds open, but the larger models aren't actually fully open weights in practice.
Which has caused some frustration, I imagine, in the open source community.
Understandably, yeah. It raises questions about what open really means in this context.
And there were some other issues mentioned with the chat template.
That's right. Some reports of problems, particularly when the chat involves like assistant tool calls. It can apparently cause errors if the conversation goes back and forth a few times, multi-turn interaction issues.
Which is pretty critical for actually using it in a chatbot.
Definitely. And there also seems to be some inconsistency, like it performs differently depending on whether you use the chat template versus just basic text completion. So some rough edges still.
Okay, definitely areas needing polish.
Yeah.
Let's shift then to the architecture itself, these newer MOE models. It feels like we're getting a glimpse into how these next-gen AIs are built.
We are. It's fascinating. Looking across recent MOE architectures, you see different strategies. DeepSeek, for instance, they seem to have improved their KV cache efficiency. That's like the model's working memory.
How do they do that?
By integrating something called MLA, likely some technique for managing that memory access more effectively. Quinn's architecture, on the other hand, looks a bit like Mixtral, but with more experts and more layers overall.
And Llama 4, or Maverick. That one sounds different again.
Very different. It's described as having a very sparse MOE setup. Extremely sparse. The Scout variant apparently even gets rid of all the standard dense layers entirely.
Wow. All dense layers gone. How does that affect performance?
Well, the benchmarks are interesting. Qwen 3 235B A22B seems to edge out DeepSeek V3 slightly in most areas, though not coding, apparently. But Llama 4 Maverick, despite being so sparse, it seems to be lagging a bit behind them in performance currently.
Huh. So extreme sparsity doesn't automatically win. There's a trade-off.
It certainly looks that way. It raises that big question. What is the right balance between total parameters, active parameters, and sparsity? It's not a simple answer.
And just measuring the active percentage is tricky too.
Yeah, there's debate on how best to calculate that. Different ways of routing the input to the experts, different architectural choices. They can all change that active ratio, even if the models look similar on the surface.
I saw a suggestion about Llama 4. Could fine-tuning it to use more than one expert at a time help?
That's a really interesting thought, yeah. If you could train Llama 4 to activate, say, 2 or 3 experts simultaneously for a given input, maybe that unlocks more capability.
Taps into more knowledge at once?
Potentially, yeah. It could significantly change its performance profile. It shows there's still a lot of experimentation happening to figure out how to best use these super sparse models.
Right. All right, final topic. Let's pivot to a very different domain. Healthcare. OpenAI's Health Bench. Sounds important.
It does, and what's really notable is how it was developed with input from over 250 physicians globally. That suggests a serious effort to make it a meaningful benchmark for AI in medicine.
Trying to get it right from the start, and how are the models doing on it?
The results reported so far have OpenAI's O3 model in the lead, scoring 60%. Grok 3 is next at 54%, then Gemini 2.5 Pro at 52%.
Okay, so O3 is leading. But there was something else. Something about physician involvement.
Yes, this was the striking part. A report claims that O3's performance on HealthBench is so strong now that having physicians review and refine the AI's answers actually doesn't improve the score anymore.
Wait, really? So the AI alone is doing as well as the AI plus a doctor on this benchmark?
That's the implication, yes. For the tasks covered by HealthBench anyway. It could signal a potential shift, maybe towards AI having standalone diagnostic abilities in some specific areas.
That feels significant. Almost like what happened with chess, where the best AI eventually beat human AI teams.
It has that kind of feel, doesn't it? Whether we're seeing a similar trajectory start in parts of medicine?
But benchmarks are one thing. Real-world medicine is another.
Absolutely critical point. Even with amazing benchmark scores, the need for safety, reliability, accuracy, it's paramount in healthcare. We have to be incredibly careful, high stakes.
No question. Okay, so wrapping this up, what's the takeaway for you, the listener? Today's deep dive shows things are moving incredibly fast on multiple fronts. Image to video is getting much more realistic and controllable.
We're seeing language models, particularly from China in this case, making huge leaps in complex reasoning.
The designs of these MOE models are getting really intricate, with subtle choices having big impacts on efficiency and smarts.
And AI is reaching performance levels in areas like healthcare evaluation that honestly are starting to challenge even expert-augmented results, at least on paper.
These are just the highlights, obviously. Each area is deep. But think about it. What do super realistic AI videos mean for, well, everything from movies to news?
Yeah, or what are the wider impacts when AI gets truly good at complex reasoning and problem solving? Big societal questions there.
And as AI gets better in critical fields like medicine, how do we manage that responsibly? What are the practical hurdles, the ethical lines? It leaves you with a question to chew on. With all these breakthroughs happening so quickly, which specific AI trend feels most significant, or maybe most concerning to you right now? And why? Keep thinking, keep exploring. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.